Am I on? I am on. Woo, woo. Hey, okay. So yeah. We're doing it. We are live, baby. Hold on. Check. Okay. So yeah. Awesome. So we're back. Welcome, family, to another episode of Elevated. I'm your host, the Elevated Engineer. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First of all, I want to say Happy Juneteenth. Woo! Happy Juneteenth! Truth is, Black folks been celebrating Juneteenth for a very long time. The rest of y'all, for real, just catching up. But if you didn't know, Juneteenth celebrates the passing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Of course, American slaves would actually free themselves until the end of the Civil War in America in 1865, 2 years after the passage of the bill. But before I move forward, let's acknowledge the president and the administration that made this possible. Oh, sorry. That was a mistake. I apologize. I meant this guy. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Uh, yeah. So, truth be told, the media and the Democrats buried Trump's Juneteenth proposal. But Trump actually started the process and discussion way back in August, September. The Democrats just finished it. And ultimately, only Congress has the power to enact federal holidays. But we actually can't even teach about Juneteenth in 15 states, including my state of Florida. So it's all really just a symbolic gesture. Who gives a shit? The truth is, black folks need reparations. We've needed it for over 150 years. The descendants of chattel slavery in the U.S. don't need any more symbolism. And the fact is, that's all we've been getting is symbolism. So I'm not really, high on the hog of getting into the Juneteenth. Oh, we finally got to win, and you see all the people, surrounding Biden as he smiles and signs his bill with Kamala Harris. It's like, oh my gosh, where is it? This is the same segregationist in Biden that said he was completely opposed to anything regarding integration. This is the same vice president who refused to let out prisoners in the California system, most of whom are black and in there for nonviolent offenses because of the cheap labor, which is more and more resembling modern day chattel slavery. So yeah, I won't be giving these Democrats, this administration, anything. That's just my opinion. I think that if we can't even acknowledge critical race theory or whatever you want to call it, which is really just uncensored black history, excuse me. Then it's a Juneteenth holiday doesn't really mean that much. Also consider this, before I go to the next topic. It's a federal holiday, so really all they did was just the politicians they just gave themselves an extra day off. Because most black folks don't work in the government. Most black folks work in retail jobs, service industry, other low paying jobs. Think Uber, think of all these. So they won't be able to take those days off anyway. So kind of bullshit. But happy Juneteenth. Next topic. So I'm going to switch over to a video. Recently, within the last week, there's a Neuralink update, update, and there's a video I want to show about it. So I'm gonna give a little bit of commentary on that. This was about 15 minutes. And then I'll show another video after that. I'll talk about that in a second, but just give me a quick second. There it is. All right. So I got this from Neuralink. That is the Neuralinks. I don't know if it's their official YouTube channel, but it's definitely closely aligned with them. So let's go ahead and get this video started.
Company Neuralink. Here's the outline for this update episode. First, I'll share some highlights from 3 Neuralink. Then there's an open Neuralink job position that is not posted on the Neuralink website. And last, there's been a bunch of great progress in the brain-machine interface field, so we'll share the highlights of those recent announcements. 3 Neuralink employees spoke at an event with Everything ALS, and one of those team members is Christine, who leads the insertion hardware team. She described one of the engineering challenges her team faces with an easy-to-understand metaphor. When referring to the placement of electrodes with the needle in the brain, she compared it to this. Quote, "The brain, which is super soft, is covered by layers of meninges, which are much stiffer. Kind of like imagine you had a jello brain, and then you had a bedsheet over it, and you're trying to stab a pen into the jello. And in a lot of cases, the pen might just dimple the bedsheet into the jello. But what we want to do is to penetrate the jello with minimum displacement and minimum damage. So this is some of the mechanical engineering problems we have to address." Unquote. This event was a little over an hour long, and they discussed more details of the first devices they're working on. They also shared technical discussion of inserting the electrodes into the brain that we just mentioned, and then measures they have in place to ensure patient safety, and a variety of other great topics. In this episode, I'll share the highlights, but the full episode should be available shortly on the Everything ALS YouTube page, and I'll add the link to the description once it gets posted. Another team member that spoke at the event is Dr. Menon. When discussing the team's progress, he said, quote, "The patients that we're aiming our first assistive device towards are folks that have an impairment in this cortical spinal tract. So from the point you make a decision to the point you do something, we can actually listen to the signals of the brain, which are happening all the time, and use those signals themselves to interact with the machines in our lives. And in the future, there's the input side we can work on too. But the story for today, and the part we'd like to communicate more details about, is really focusing on this story, for this first trial where we're trying to show this type of technology is safe and effective, is this device that we'll talk to you more about next." Unquote. And right after that, the device they go on to discuss is the Neuralink N1 device, which we saw showcased in the Neuralink Monkey Mind Pong video. Dr. Menon is a clinical assistant professor of
That video is actually on YouTube. Actually, that would have been a good video to show you to prepare you for this one. But just giving the a short, little description. The Neuralink is going to be an implant. This is the one that Elon Musk and company are working on. So yeah.
neurosurgery at Stanford, and he cares for patients with traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries. His credentials are a little too long to list here, which should instill confidence that the Neuralink team is comprised of fantastic people who are well equipped to make this exciting future a reality. Next, we heard from Kate, who's been an engineer with Neuralink for 4 years. When discussing charging for the N1 implant, she said, quote, "We're also designing hair clips, wheelchair mounts, and bed frame mounts," unquote. Therefore, the primary means of charging will likely remain a baseball cap. However, other charging options may also become available in the future. One of my favorite things she discussed relates to the longer-term implications of what Neuralink is working on. The Neuralink N1 implant will enable paralyzed and also fully able people gain full control of computers, smartphones, and other devices. She says, quote, "This opens the door for a lot of other technologies, or a lot of other innovators to make accessible technology and solutions that can be controlled via brain-machine interface." So for example,
So again, I spoke about this a little while ago about the whole metaverse. It's coming, y'all. The metaverse is coming, man. And with technology like this, we're talking about being able to control um machines, technology by just thinking about it. Basically, we're going to be creating, it's a term that I've used before, it's called technopaths. Basically, people that can talk to technology. Um, Literally. I'm somewhat of a technopath now, but I don't have an implant. So we're talking about me um in an average person's body who will have control over, their internet in ways that I can only imagine. Or maybe I can't even imagine yet. So go back to it.
to make a wheelchair that can be controlled by the brain, someone wouldn't have to build the brain-machine interface anymore. They would just have to build the app, and then that app could be controlled with the N1, unquote. In my personal opinion, this further demonstrates the likelihood of future Neuralink-specific apps, or even an app store. She also went on to discuss ways that the team is constantly communicating and engaging with patients to better understand their needs. One example of this is that Neuralink has a consumer advisory board, and they've used that group to have discussion with folks who have paraplegia due to spinal cord injury. They've also used the group to hear feedback on charging hats and charging beanies. For those of you who are concerned that Neuralink may not be listening to patients or gathering enough feedback and information, I want to push back and say I have confidence they're going to do all they possibly can to make sure that these devices, equipment, and procedures meet and exceed any legal and ethical requirements. Furthermore, many members of the Neuralink team have personal motivation to make these devices as safe and effective as possible, because they themselves have loved ones or know close friends who have been affected by life-altering diseases. They know how impactful the technology they're developing can be. ALS, which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a nervous system disease where nerve cells break down and reduce functionality in the muscles that they supply. Gradually, all voluntary muscles are affected, and unfortunately the disease is often fatal once the muscles used to breathe fail.
So yeah, and if you've ever seen a person go through ALS, it's kind of heartbreaking. Plus, not only ALS but Alzheimer's, MS, with multiple sclerosis, or even dementia. It's pretty heartbreaking to see, because one moment it feels like you're talking to a person who's getting a little older. You're having rational conversations with them. The next, they think it's 1945, and they don't even recognize you. So I actually haven't discussed this on my page, but I've seen, I mean, if you get to a certain age, you've seen people go through dementia. You see all these brain diseases, and to me, the only real solution that I can see is to just stick a hard drive in someone's brain. I mean, honestly, you're not gonna forget. Hey, let me back up my brain. Now, where are we going with this technology? I don't know. I really don't. Like, I cannot say what the implications will be. They'll be bad. They'll be good. They'll have ways to reset your brain. They'll have ways to turn you off. You know what I mean? But it almost is like we gotta take the good with the bad, like anything else, like with the internet, with social media. You gotta take the good with the bad, and it might be damn near inevitable. So yeah, keep going.
I first heard of ALS in 2014, when the videos of people dumping ice buckets on themselves started to go viral. Donations for the disease skyrocketed that year, but there is still lots of real work needed to be done. I want to have a future where all neurological diseases like ALS don't exist. And the group that hosted this event, Everything ALS, also wants to help anyone with ALS have a support system. They are a patient-focused nonprofit, and on their website it says, quote, "We believe the technology will be a key enabler for the innovation to end ALS. We are here to bridge the gap between patients, research, and technology. Our diverse team is composed of patient advocates, students, nurses, physicians, entrepreneurs, artificial intelligence engineers, biologists, ALS patients, and spiritual guidance from one person who has reversed ALS. We are here to help provide information to all of those affected by ALS." Unquote. If you know anyone affected by ALS, this organization has resources available. Next, some news related to Facebook Reality Labs. The former vice president of virtual reality, Hugo Barra, posted an announcement on his profile on May 17th. It says, quote, "Some personal news. Today is my last day at Facebook Reality Labs. After 4 years working on projects that have been more exciting and more challenging than anything I've encountered in my career, with some of the brightest minds and kindest people I've ever had the pleasure to meet." Unquote. He then thanks Mark Zuckerberg and some others he's worked with before ending with,
Mark Zuckerberg.
this statement, quote, "So what's next? I've been thinking of an interview with Marquise Brownlee and Google CEO Sundar Pichai.
The thing I always like about these things is even if you think of it as a feature to help the disabled community, it has wide applicability beyond that as well. You know, you could be in a meeting and you want to listen to a video and the captioning still works, right? And or in a crowded place and so on. So I think all of this is much wider applicability too.
Pichai is talking about different technology than brain-machine interfaces, but I believe the message holds true for any new technology, including for Neuralink. Right now, the team is focused on helping paralyzed patients gain full control of computers, but future applications will be wide-ranging. Other than working with Neuralink, I believe one of the best ways to accelerate these applications is to help build mobile apps that can connect to a Neuralink N1. And if you're interested in helping build those with Neuropod,
See, that's another good one too. This is another reason I showed this for jobs, for potential innovators, entrepreneurs, the app developers out there. Like, man, this is jobs, man. This is the future. Like they're gonna need all types of apps to interact with this technology and people, and you know, you come up with some innovative app ideas, man. You want to talk about becoming a millionaire, bro? What? We talking about you becoming a billionaire. This is why I show this stuff. So keep going. It's almost done.
please go to our jobs page in the description. In transitioning from hiring for Neuropod to hiring for Neuralink, it looks like the team is hiring a regulatory affairs expert. The description for this position says, quote, "NTX Services brings you an exclusive opportunity to work with Neuralink on the regulatory affairs team, reporting directly to Dr. McDougall, head neurosurgeon. We are looking for an experienced regulatory affairs individual to write the IDE for Neuralink for around 15 hours per week. This position could transition into a full-time role as a clinical trials coordinator in 2 to 3 months." Unquote. The IDE they're referring to is the Investigational Device Exemption with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. This position aligns well with what we've been hearing before about the timeline for FDA approval for human trials being at the end of this year or early 2022. When looking at the FDA website for Investigational Device Exemption, there are numerous requirements and a very thorough review, as we might expect. This should further serve as proof that the Neuralink N1 implant will be safe. Lastly, there have been some great announcements in the greater BCI world recently. One was shared with me by a longtime Neuropod supporter, James. Thanks, James. The Nature article discusses the use of deep brain stimulation and use of functional MRI and machine learning. The first introductory paragraph states, quote, "Deep brain stimulation, or DBS, has become a standard of care therapy for movement disorders, particularly Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, and dystonia, and is being investigated in psychiatric and cognitive disorders, including major depressive disorder and Alzheimer's disease. DBS involves placing an electrode to deliver electrical stimulation within a dysfunctional neural circuit to suppress aberrant activity and/or drive an underactive network. Despite its recognized benefits, the therapeutic mechanism of action of DBS remains incompletely understood." Unquote. The publication goes on to describe how the use of fMRI data in conjunction with a machine learning algorithm can assist in delivering an optimal DBS stimulation with optimal DBS settings. This progress is great to see, as it will help unlock better outcomes for patients that use deep brain stimulation. Next, we have another article from Nature titled High Performance Brain-to-Text Communication via Handwriting. In the last episode, I had a great opportunity to interview Dr. John Donahue, who's the...
Okay, I don't want to get too far into this video. I'll post a link in the description because it's getting a little long. I know it only has a few minutes left, but I want to move on to the next topic. But yeah, man, that's where we at right now, man. That's where we at right now. We got damn near cyborgs walking around, you know? And I think that's it has so much potential. The implications are, I mean, they kind of speak for themselves. We know Elon Musk is a mad genius, and you know, probably gonna try to take over the world. But hey, you know, whatever. It is what it is, man. That's the thing, though, black folks. Like, man, you ever notice that, you know, white folks, man, they shoot for the moon on their stuff. They say how they dream about stuff, and they're just like, yo, how can we do it? Meanwhile, we still talking about the average black person isn't really looking at stuff like that, and we really should. We really need to. That's why going into this next video, it's about the quantum internet. And it's a bit of an update on the quantum internet. I always talk about quantum computing. It's where I'm researching, et cetera, et cetera. But this last topic is focused on a quantum internet and like what are the implications for that. So, but they're gonna go hand in hand with Neuralink, quantum computing, processing, and et cetera, et cetera. The metaverse, virtual reality, all these things are gonna be going hand in hand, and before you know it, these technologies are gonna sneak up on you. Sooner or later, your kids are going to start asking for VR devices, AR devices like the Oculus from Facebook, or the HTC Vive, or you know, even Magic Leap maybe. But you know. But these technologies are going to sneak up on you, and you're going to be like, okay, yeah, you're going to go to GameStop, because GameStop is selling the Oculus right now. You're going to be like, yeah, you go, hey, give my kid this for Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And then you have no idea what those kids are going to be doing on there. They're going to be pushing it. They're going to be pushing this technology into places that we never thought could go. But let's move on to the next topic, which is about the quantum internet.
In the past couple of years, we've seen a number of studies carried out to make quantum internet a reality. And while it's taken a while to see some progress, scientists have finally had their eureka moment. And boy, is it sweet. In fact, the most recent breakthrough in quantum networking came from Purdue University, where engineers have been working day and night on a method to fix a serious problem that stops the development of quantum networks large enough to reliably support several users. And you know what? They finally made some massive headway. According to a recent report published by the researchers in Optica, these engineers are laying the groundwork to create a series of quantum computers and quantum sensors that will have the ability to go online and successfully communicate with each other. The paper describes how a team of engineers have successfully deployed a programmable switch capable of adjusting the quantity of data sent to each user by choosing and redirecting certain wavelengths of light carrying data to different channels. This switch will make it possible to increase the number of users without having to endure photon loss.
So they're talking about. Remember, I was speaking about photonics a while ago. They're talking about making a switch, which is a fancy word for a giant router, basically, and using photonics to transmit data. Um, this is the stuff I'm talking about, man. This is quantum computing. This quantum internet. So yeah.
Loss as the network expands in size. Yes, you might be surfing the web using quantum technology in the next few years, but photon loss is still a major problem that hinders this innovative technology, because as soon as you lose photons in a fiber optic network, you've lost information. That being said, it's not been an easy ride for the scientists.
Decoherence, that's what I'm talking about. Once you lose that photonic state, your qubits, they're susceptible to decoherence.
That made this major breakthrough. According to Andrew Weiner, a distinguished professor of electrical and computer engineering at Purdue, the team has had to undertake multiple daunting approaches that initially required them to physically interchange dozens of fixed optical filters tuned to individual wavelengths. This made it difficult to adjust connections between users, and it also contributed to greater photon loss. But with the new method, scientists don't have to worry about adding filters anytime a new user joins a network. They simply programmed the wavelength selected through the switch to direct data-carrying wavelengths to the new user, thereby minimizing operational costs and maintenance, as well as making quantum internet way more efficient. According to the paper, the wavelength switch was also able to alter the bandwidth depending on the user's requirements, which was not the case for fixed optical filters. Some users were even able to access applications that require greater bandwidth than others. It's kind of like how you can access more shows through a web streaming service if you pay for a premium package to get higher bandwidth. Pretty awesome, right? But for quantum internet to work, forming connections between users and altering the bandwidth will require entanglement, a process through which photons maintain a stable quantum mechanical relationship with each other regardless of the distance between them. This will enable users to successfully connect to a network, and so entanglement will be fundamental for quantum computing as well as quantum information processing.
So entanglement, man, again, I don't want to get too much into the physics aspects of it because that's something that the people watching, the engineering fam is watching. That's something you're gonna have to get more into yourself. I'm just trying to give you a surface level interest into this shit because when it comes to quantum entanglement, that's where the problem lies. Because maintaining those qubits, there are different ways to do it. I think right now photonics might be the most efficient, but there's also the super cooled qubits. That's what like stuff like the D-Wave computer is using. But there's also the what's it, topographic qubits that I was speaking about. That's pretty deep. It uses quasi-particles. So we're talking about stuff that's smaller than atoms. Electrons, neutrons, like these stuffs are small. Imagine this to kind of break it down. Imagine, okay, you have an external hard drive, right? And your external hard drive you have right now is like 2 terabytes, right? Now imagine that you are able to send information or store and send information into a quasi-particle sized storage device. If that makes sense. So we're talking about your external hard drive in a space that's so small, it's smaller than the atom, and sending that using light, aka photonics, over cables or whatever have you, over the quantum internet, and it being as if you're using the internet we know now. That's essentially what they're saying. So let's finish this one out.
For the Purdue researchers to create entanglement, their method involved changing the rate at which the entangled photons were shared so that they could be used as a resource to entangle the quantum sensors and computers of two different users. While this is by all means impressive, one country has really outdone itself when it comes to photon entanglement, and that country
is China. China is ahead on a lot of shit. Oh my God. China is ahead on a lot of shit because they see the potential. They already are already on it. When I first seen this video, because I've really only seen this video maybe in the last hour and a half before I started narrating it. But before they even said anything, I was like, it's going to be China, because I know they are ahead in a lot of fields that, frankly, over here in the West or in the US, we're not even touching. Yeah, we got our, our quantum stuff. We got our, we got our, some companies. We got Google and, IBM and all these other people, but not the way China is getting on it. And it is in my belief, I could be wrong, but I believe that quantum computing and quantum internet stuff is going to be the space race of the 2020s and the 2030s. That's my belief. And if we don't start taking this shit seriously over here, we go get surpassed. So let's go ahead and keep going.
Is China. As early as 2014, Chinese scientists were able to achieve quantum entanglement to the distance of hundreds of miles thanks to the use of their Mycius satellite. As for the Purdue researchers, they're presently working on building a much larger network using the wavelength selection switch. But this isn't the only quantum internet breakthrough that we've seen so far. In fact, in 2020, physicists at the Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands have done something truly amazing. They're actually the first team in the entire world to successfully connect 3 quantum devices together, and that's huge. According to the lead author of the study, Dr. Ronald Hansen, this is the first time that a network has been successfully created between quantum processors. Initially, a single direct link had been achieved between 2 processors in the past decade, but no network had ever been created. And so, with the pace at which things are moving, one can't help but continue to wonder, just how will quantum internet affect the way I use the internet? Well, the most immediate effect would be enhanced security. You see, a set of entangled particles can be operated as a cryptic passcode. That's because each particle in a quantum internet computer holds a qubit, which is essentially the tiniest section of quantum computing information. It is shared only to its entangled twin found in the computer that you're sending this information to. So, a user will have the ability to encode their message as a string of qubits that only the receiving computer will be able to decode. And if someone attempts to hack into the network and try to read the qubits from one of the computers, then according to quantum mechanics, the user will be able to tell because the act of observing a particle changes its quantum state in detectable ways. Now, that would give hackers a hard time prowling in the shadows, wouldn't it? But despite quantum internet seeming more secure than the current...
We're due for a quantum attack. A major one. We're due for one. We're due for a quantum DDoS, which is distributed denial of service attack. We're due for a major one. It's gonna happen. I just hope that the powers that be are taking this shit serious enough, because we're due. Either the U.S. government is going to get hit with one if it hasn't already been hit, or companies based in the U.S. are going to get hit with some quantum attacks if we don't start having, quantum-based cybersecurity, quantum key distribution. So we're due.
current internet we have, it also has one major issue. It requires a lot more infrastructure to set up. For a quantum-connected future to be realized, we'll require multiple quantum computers. And these are really tough to design and build. And let's also not forget that quantum relays are more difficult to set up than the relays we have with conventional internet. You see, when it comes to quantum uplinks and downlinks, each quantum signal relies on two entangled particles interacting with each other across large distances between computers. This is really hard to pull off because fiber optic cables begin destroying photons when a certain distance is crossed. Plus, these photons can't travel across electrical wires. Also, once you read these photons, you can't access new passcodes. Now, how do you solve this problem? Well, China seems to be onto something. They're tackling this problem by beaming entangled photons across hyper-advanced relay stations based on Earth through the Mycius satellite located in space. While it works, it's not 100% effective, because once you start reducing the precision of the transmitters, you gradually lose photons. In fact, scientists are yet to come up with an ideal method of transmission that is cheap and reliable. But chances are that it's going to involve a whole bunch of satellites. But other researchers have proposed a different solution to this problem. According to quantum physicist Ronald Hansen, people can still continue to use conventional computers. However, if they want to transmit a quantum-secure message, they can simply head over to a local quantum relay and have it sent. Or they can easily connect to a secure online quantum computer through the internet and then send the message. This method would
Yeah, okay, so about that, I want to talk about that really quick. You can access a quantum computer right now. What? Qiskit, that's IBM's Qiskit. That's IBM's basically. They have a quantum computing quantum computer that you can access right now and use that to actually send messages or do whatever you want. But yeah, you can access. You don't need to buy a, I don't know, D-Wave is like $10,000 or something, right? Whatever. I don't know. But even with a D-Wave, like you need the infrastructure to support it. But you can still buy a D-Wave, but you can access a quantum computer right now. Just Google it. IBM, Qiskit, quantum computer. Boom. You can start writing code, and you can write code in Python. So, you know, you could access this shit right now. You can start making stuff right now. Do it. Listen to the elevated engineer. All right, come on. I think we got a few minutes left.
certainly cut down infrastructure costs. However, not every scientist is pumped and buzzed about the computing possibilities of a quantum internet. Scott Aronson, a quantum computer scientist at MIT, believes that quantum internet might disappoint the average internet user, and it might not live up to their expectations. You see, so many quantum physicists have marketed quantum computing as the dawn of a new era, where man will be able to harness the untapped power of multiple universes and find out every solution in parallel. Quantum computing has been labeled as limitless, but most people will be shocked to find that quantum computers will only be good for a number of basic quantum simulations, not to mention possessing a few specialized features. While they might someday lead to groundbreaking discoveries in fields of medicine and technology, they might...
We're still in the beginning stages, man. We're still in the beginning stages. So, yeah. I agree with him on some portion, but we're still in the beginning stages, man, of quantum computing. It's not very practical yet. But if we keep going, we keep pushing, I believe it'll change a lot of what we realize now.
Might have very few immediate and transformative effects on the average person's life. According to Aronson, the only major differences between a quantum-connected internet and the current conventional internet we have today are very small and narrow. The one major difference, as we had mentioned earlier, is that people will be able to relay their messages with a greater sense of security, far more advanced than what is available with our conventional internet. They'll also have access to computers that'll be able to carry out way more complex tasks at rates that are impossible today. A computer on the quantum web will most likely solve complex puzzles and patterns in seconds, one that could take the everyday computer several hours. We will most likely see computers that'll be able to quickly optimize schedules for factory production or even figure out patterns in stock data within seconds. But bear in mind that all this is a big if, because no one really knows for sure just how fast the standard quantum computer will be. But you know what might be the biggest revolution from the birth of the quantum internet? It's not even the quantum computers themselves. Rather, it's the secondary effects that quantum internet will have in important fields such as medicine and technology. We could see the development of better solar panels, more effective medication, faster conventional computers, and improved online service delivery. The possibilities could indeed be limitless across these fronts. In fact, we can honestly compare this present moment to the first days of research into computer networks that began in the 70s and 80s. You see, we're using computers in a totally different way than their intended use early on. Today, we use computers mostly to be a part of this massive online global village where information is shared from every corner of the world. It's like
the massive online global village is another term for the metaverse.
Likely that the same thing could happen with quantum internet. It might start out being used in one way and then transform into something entirely different. But as
I believe that's highly likely what it's going to be doing. You think 50 years ago they thought we was going to have a Facebook, social media, or YouTube? Nah, man.
always, it's hard to predict the future. But one thing's for sure, quantum internet will be a revolutionary technology. And with that being said, we've come to the end of this video. Let us...
All right. So that's my expose, if you will. Yeah, man. There's a reason I played the Neuralink one first and then a quantum computing / internet video second, because I wanted to make sure that I tied them both together. Neuralink will be highly efficient at really alleviating a lot of the diseases and ills, and helping people who've been paralyzed, but also interacting with the metaverse. And just thinking it. And the quantum computing will be, in the quantum internet, will be how we use it, how we make it more efficient. I believe the quantum internet will. Who knows where we're gonna be in 50 years from now, But we keep going on this path. Like we're going to open up so many new possibilities, and we need engineers, scientists, mathematicians. We need black folks to be doing this stuff. We need black folks to be studying this type of stuff. All people, of course, but black folks especially. We need this, because you can't count on the government to give us reparations. They ain't never given us a sign that they was gonna give it. So all we can do is just keep pressing them. But, I don't mean that we still can't focus on building, infrastructure, STEM, these types of jobs, and innovators and entrepreneurs. So that is my point. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Elevated. Oh, yeah. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment, blah, blah, blah. The same shit I say every week. We already know. Yeah. So, engineering fam, thanks again for watching. I'm your host, the Elevated Engineer. Thanks, engineering fam. That's it.